Let's all take a stroll through an octopus's garden and say a very good morning to Marco Bordieri from the Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page. Marco, ciao, come sta?
Ciao, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well. Look, we've seen this over the last few weeks, particularly after that heavy rain, that water is not crystal clear.
Yeah, that has been going for a while, and definitely when it's raining very hard for a few days, the problem is the runoff from shore. So basically, all the sediment that is brought by rivers and all the water outlets. So that's usually the reason.
But there's another reason, isn't there?
Yeah, so luckily there is another reason. It's not when the water is not clear, sometimes it's not a bad sign. It's just because there is life in the water. And usually it's for a couple of reasons. It could be, as I said, it could be inorganic runoff, or could be also sediment from the erosion of the floor, or it could be organic, like usually it's phytoplankton.
And phytoplankton is actually able to change the colour of the sea.
Yeah, phytoplankton is like a plant. So if you imagine, is like microscopic marine algae, and they, like a plant, they are green and they consume light. They need light in order to, via the chlorophyll, to create oxygen. Actually, they are responsible for 50% of the oxygen on Earth, and that being green, that's why the ocean gets either nuances of green or blue.
We should have a National Phytoplankton Day, because not only do they provide 50% of the Earth's oxygen, they're a vital food source too.
Absolutely, because what they do, they are the very base of the food chain. So, for example, shrimp, very tiny shrimp, not the one that we find on the plate, but very tiny, that could be 1 millimeter or more. They feed on phytoplankton, and if you go diving at night and you use a torch, you realize how many of those tiny shrimps are there to even ruin your pictures because they form a cloud in front of your torch. But then you realize how many fish are actually feeding on those little shrimps. So, yeah, it's very important, and if it wasn't there would be a huge problem.
And I never know whether it's pronounced zooplankton or zooplankton. I know how to say protozoa.
Yeah, well, that's my issue also. So another type of plankton. So plankton means drifter, and phyto means plant, and zoo means animal. So another type of plankton is the zooplankton, also called protozoa. Protozoa means, again, from Greek, means primitive animal. They are primitive because they are very tiny, so they are more or less the size of the phytoplankton, but they are of animal nature. They are literally one-cell animals, very, very tiny.
But on your Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page, you've got the most beautiful design of a radiolarian, I hope it's pronounced.
I think it's pronounced correctly, and it's not a cult of radio lovers, but it's a category of these very tiny animals. So they're under the millimeter, so you really need a microscope or a very good macro lens. They are basically made of very, very tiny globes, and that's why they call it radio, because radio comes from radius, and which is the same for the radio. I mean, radio comes from radiation because there is this radial projection of radio waves. And the same is true for these radiolarians, because there's this kind of a small globe, and then there are spikes which are projected in away from the center of the globe. So it's the same concept. It's like the ball was actually projecting, radiating something. And we posted a picture on the Sydney Underwater Gazette, as you said. It's one that I managed to find some time ago. I was in Obelisk Beach. I was taking picture at random in the dark. I was looking actually for very tiny squids that were floating mid-water, and after reviewing the picture, I realized there was something which looked like, I don't know, initially I thought it was a crack in the lens.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the Facebook page, and it looks like one of those stone sort of cracks you'll see in a windscreen.
Yeah, like you got a big center and then all the spikes in every direction. So I said, initially I thought, oh, must be something wrong with my lens, but then I enlarged it and I realized I was looking at one of those radiolaria. And yeah, it's very tiny. The center is half a millimeter. And they are beautiful because they are perfectly symmetrical. And you will think how it's possible in nature to be something so small and so precise.
Wow, and so important to our world's ecology. You can see the photos at the Sydney Underwater Gazette. If I want to go out, you're reckoning that really today's not the best one and wait for tomorrow?
Yeah, I would go for a bushwalk or something else today because the swell is still too big for entering the water. And even if you find a place, possibly, you can get into the water probably at Cabbage Tree Bay, Shelley Beach, because it's protected. But we are not expecting any visibility at all because of the big swell. So tomorrow will be better, but I think it will take a few days for all the particles to settle. So I would say maybe skip this weekend and go on the Sydney Underwater Gazette to have a look to the past posts.
It would also catch us around 7:30 this morning. We're going to catch up with Kathy Griffin, Friends of Cabbage Tree Bay, around an ecology concern that they have round there. But for the moment, Marco Bordieri, you have a good weekend.
You too, a good one.
You can find out more about what we were discussing on the Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page.